The North Atlantic island of Greenland has become a geopolitical flashpoint, with the United States and Europe in an intense standoff over Donald Trump's ambition to take over the Danish territory. He insists it's necessary for security reasons and is threatening to impose 10% tariffs on the Danes, the UK and 6 other countries opposed to the takeover. Earlier today, Sir Keir Stamer called an emergency news conference to issue rare public criticism of the US President.
On Greenland, the right way to approach an issue of this seriousness is through calm discussion between allies. Alliances endure because they're built on respect and partnership, not pressure. That is why I said the use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong. It is not the right way to resolve differences within an alliance. Nor is it helpful to frame efforts to strengthen Greenland's security as a justification for economic pressure.
President Trump's economic threats have also been criticised by the First Minister.
There's obviously a number of concerns about all of this. First of all, there is the economic impact of increased tariffs, which will be very damaging to the Scottish economy. But the issues that have been raised by President Trump and the approach that is being proposed so far is deeply destabilising to the NATO alliance.
As well as for the UK, this is a testing time for the EU. Someone who's been involved in shaping European foreign policy over recent years is the leading German Christian Democrat, David McAllister, who's the son of a Scottish father, and he chairs the European Parliament's Committee on Foreign Affairs and spoke to us from Strasbourg. David McAllister, how big a crisis is this?
Well, one thing is clear. Greenland is a sovereign part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Greenland is not for sale, and the future of Greenland will be decided exclusively by the people of Greenland. And for us in the European Union, this now means that we should assess the situation calmly, remain united and responsible, and continue to seek dialogue with the United States, but at the same time make unmistakably clear that the sovereignty, the territorial integrity and international law are simply not up for negotiation.
But it doesn't feel very calm. It does feel like a crisis.
Well, this is an extraordinary situation. A NATO ally is threatening other NATO allies with tariffs because they are in favour of defending the sovereignty and territorial integrity of a NATO ally. That's why I welcome that European leaders at EU level will meet on Thursday to discuss the situation. My opinion is we must remain firm, we should remain calm, and we are interested in making this very clear to the US President that he simply is not on the right track and that we cannot we can't cooperate like this within NATO. And for this reason, for instance, the European Parliament, I'm very sure, will put the Turnberry deal on the trade agreement with the United States on hold.
Well, we've heard from the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, today. He's not proposing retaliatory tariffs, but President Macron of France is talking about firing the EU's trade bazooka. Which direction do you think Europe's going to take here?
Well, first of all, given the circumstances, the European Parliament will put the Turnberry deal on hold. That is the first point, I'm very sure. We don't want to escalate the situation, but we didn't escalate anyhow. But we want to now remain firm and at the same time calm, and also show the US side what instruments we have at our disposal. The second point is the counter tariffs, which were stalled, which were not put into place yet. They could be put into place by the 9th of February. And this, of course, would also indicate the US side that we are ready to retaliate. I also do hope that in America, in Washington, senators and members of the House of Representatives will now come out and tell the president that this is simply not the right way how to deal with NATO allies. And the European Union has shown, just like the United Kingdom, huge solidarity with our member state, Denmark. We respect the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the entire Kingdom of Denmark.
How ready is the EU to retaliate? and, obviously postponing that deal that Ursula von der Leyen signed with the President in Turnberry. But how ready are they to retaliate?
Well, this will be our first result. I'm in favour of the Turnberry deal. I believe that we should put it in place, but for the time being, because of the given circumstances, I'm very sure that the European Parliament will not vote in greenlighting this agreement this week here in Strasbourg. And then it's up to the European leaders at their meeting on Thursday to analyse the situation very carefully and then to adjust how we should react. One thing is very important, that the European Union reacts in unity, because together we are much stronger and better than if we have individual activities. And with Europe, I don't only mean the European Union, but of course in this case also Norway and the United Kingdom, who have also been threatened by the US president.
And which way do you think they'll go? Do you think they'll go for that Starmer, more appeasement route, or do you think they'll go for that harder line from Macron?
I hope that they will go for an intelligent line, and an intelligent line means that we have to be very firm on the one hand, and we need to be calm on the other hand. It's about acting responsible. It is to convince the US side that we have to go back to where we were. Let's restart this whole debate, and we have to make very clear that this is not the way how NATO allies should be working together. And this is a clear message to the US president. And that's why when, for instance, now the NATO soldiers from a number of countries were sent to Greenland, this was on invitation by the Kingdom of Denmark, and an exercise conducted at the invitation of a sovereign state cannot, by definition, constitute a provocation against another country, and this includes the United States.
In the aftermath of Brexit, how much influence does Sir Keir Starmer have on other EU leaders now?
I think we've seen in recent months that the relations between the European Union and the United Kingdom have improved. I very much welcomed the first EU-UK summit in London in May last year. Since then, we've seen a lot of willingness on the UK side to improve our relations. And I mean, Brexit has happened, and we now need to look forward. And we as a European Union have a huge interest in cooperating as closely as possible with the United Kingdom, especially on these important security and defence related issues. And that's why you've seen in the last weeks and months how closely, especially Germany, France and Britain, have been coordinating the European position together with Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa.
Finally, how worried are you by all of this?
I am convinced that the transatlantic partnership is the best for Europe. I strongly believe in NATO. I strongly believe in close cooperation across the pond with the United States and Canada. But obviously we have a US president who does not cherish the transatlantic partnership as his predecessors have over all these decades. And that's why we want to try to remain transatlantic, but we will have to become much more European. And that means we will have to do much more for our own security and defense in Europe. And let's do this together as EU27 and in close cooperation with other partners like the United Kingdom or Norway. It's remaining transatlantic, but becoming much more European. And we definitely need to strengthen the European pillar within the established framework of NATO.
Dave McAllister, thanks for joining us in Scotland tonight.
Thank you.